A very good morning. It's the 29th of May 2024. This is the first edition of Yes 101 Visual Radio for the day. Bringing you the news, I'm Mariam Ganavijaya. First up is a look at your headlines.
News First headline.
Heavy showers expected in several areas. Kalu, Gin and Nilwala rivers and Attanagalu still at minor flood level. U.S. Ambassador to Sri Lanka meets Election Commission members. 5 weeks granted to file objections in Express Pearl compensation case. In international news, Israel's Rafah operation not a major offensive, says the U.S. And in sports, it's cricket. Netherlands wins T20 World Cup warm-up match against Sri Lanka by 20 runs. On to your top story this morning. The Department of Meteorology predicts showers at times in the western, Sabaragamuwa, central, northwestern and southern provinces, with heavy showers above 100 millimeters in the western and Sabaragamuwa provinces and in the Nilwala district. The Met Department predicts showers or thunder showers in the Uva province and in the Ampara and Batiklo districts in the evening or night. The department also predicts strong winds of about 50 to 60 kilometers per hour over the western slopes of the Central Hills in the northern, north central, western, southern and northwestern provinces and in the Trincomalee and Monaragala districts. Now, the Met Department says the effective of a cyclone Ramal will dissipate after tomorrow. Director of the Department of Meteorology, Ajit Vijayman, also says the cyclone made landfall in Bangladesh. He says accordingly heavy showers are expected to gradually decrease from tomorrow. Vijayman says, however, the prevailing showers and windy conditions are expected to continue further in the southwestern parts of the island due to the effects of the southwest monsoon season. Meanwhile, the Department of Irrigation says the Kalu, Ging, Nilwala rivers and the Attanagalu is still at minor flood level. The department requested those living in the affected areas to remain vigilant in this regard. Now, 39,156 people belonging to 10,483 families have been affected due to the adverse weather conditions. Landslide warnings issued to several divisional secretariats in 8 districts continue to remain in effect as well. These landslide warnings are in effect in the Colombo, Gaul, Gampaha, Kalutara, Kandy, Kegol, Nuwara and the Ratnapura districts. In other local news, U.S. Ambassador to Sri Lanka Julie Chung met with Chairman of the Election Commission RMAL Ratnayaka to inquire regarding the upcoming election in Sri Lanka. The U.S. Ambassador inquired from the Election Commission regarding concerns that have arisen with regard to the conduct of elections. Posting on X, formerly known as Twitter, Ambassador Chung said they exchanged views on the importance of voting in free and fair elections as a pillar of democratic governance. The chairman of the Election Commission had reiterated that the upcoming election will be held according to the powers vested upon him through the Constitution. The ambassador of the European Commission, the High Commissioner to the United Kingdom, and several others also met with members of the Election Commission in recent days to discuss the upcoming election process. Still in local news, 5 weeks have been granted to submit objections in the case file of the Singapore International Commercial Court to obtain compensation for the impact of Sri Lanka's environment due to the Express Pearl disaster. The decision was reached after considering a request made by the relevant shipping company through a motion. The Attorney General's Department says time was granted until the 1st of July to file objections. Time was also granted to file objections against the motion filed by the Sri Lankan government at the High Court of Admiralty in London to remove restrictions imposed to obtain compensation from the shipping company. Now, the Attorney General's Department says the shipping company was granted time until the 28th of June to file objections. Next up is a look at your international news.
International news.
White House spokesperson John Kirby has said the US does not believe Israel has launched a full-scale invasion of Rafah in southern Gaza. He spoke hours after Israeli forces reached the center of the city and reportedly seized a strategically important hill overlooking the nearby border with Egypt. US President Joe Biden has previously said a full-scale invasion in Rafah, where hundreds of thousands of civilians are still thought to be sheltering, would cross a line. And next up is sports news.
Sports news.
The Netherlands won the 2024 T20 World Cup warm-up match against Sri Lanka by 20 runs, and Sri Lanka won the toss and chose to field first. Batting first, Netherlands scored 181 runs for the loss of 5 wickets, and chasing a target of 182, Sri Lanka were bowled out for 161 in 18.5 overs. Those are your top stories for this hour. You can join us again in the next edition of Yes 101 Visual Radio coming up later this afternoon. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Mariam Gunavijaya. Thank you very much for joining us.